Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants Hangout. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I will be your host for today. I hope you're excited for Monday. We're kickstarting our Monday with a little bit of adventure, a little bit of exploration. I'm so excited to be hosting my friend James Ketchell today. James, for those of you who don't know, a little bit about James' story. James is from the UK. He's an amazing explorer, an amazing adventurer, but all of his adventures, you know, they're for a purpose. He's always raising money for amazing charities along the way. A few of James' accomplishments include the ultimate triathlon. So this was a solo row across the Atlantic Ocean, climbing Mount Everest, and then an 18,000 mile cycle around the world. And then James is on a pretty amazing journey right now. He's in Moscow in Russia. He's attempting to become the first person to circumnavigate the globe by gyrocopter. So traveling over 37,000 miles. He's already been left from the UK, traveled through France, Germany, several other countries in the European Union. James, you're stopping in schools along the way. You're raising money for charity. I've been following the journey. It looks like it's been an absolute blast so far. We're so excited to catch up with you and hear a little bit more right from you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. And hi, everybody. What I'm going to do is, really just share some pictures. I've put some pictures together from my departure back in the UK to where I am now. So I'm going to share the screen quick, guys, and I'm effectively going to talk through some pictures and where I've been and what I've been up to. So stand by, guys, and we'll get some pics and we'll have some fun. And I'm guessing you can all hear me, right? Yeah?
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear, James.
Super duper. Okie dokie, guys. So just to set a bit of context here, this has been something that I've wanted to do for many, many years. It's been quite difficult. It's taken 3 years to get all the funding together to buy the aircraft. And, you know, I couldn't turn around to my mum and dad and say, hey, give me some money. I want to go and do something. I had to figure out how I was going to do it. So I effectively went out and raised sponsorship, and you can see there's pictures, there's company logos on the aircraft, and that's really how I managed to pull the funding together to go and do something like this. So just over 5 weeks ago, I left from a little place in England called Popham. So if you're not sure where Popham is, it's spelled Popham, and it's in England, in Hampshire. Maybe Google that when you got a few minutes, and you'll see where I started from. But there was a lot of pressure. Quite quickly, the media picked up on what I was doing, and everyone wanted to kind of interview me and things. And quite quickly, it was a huge amount of responsibility on my shoulders. All these people asking me questions and things, and the media came down. But it ended up being a great send-off. It was a really magical day. As you can see there, guys, I mean, that is only like a quarter of the people that turned out. I was blown away. I did not expect all these people to come out to see this lunatic set off in a gyrocopter. I will tell you a little bit about how a gyrocopter flies as well, but I'm guessing that's probably going to be one of the things that comes up in the questions. So here we go, guys. I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey, picture by picture, through the different countries that I've been to where I am now in Moscow, Russia. So the first day I set off from Popham, it was a great day, and you know, I had quite a lot of people wave me off. I then had a couple of gyros join me, and I flew down to the south coast to a place called Goodwood. And then after that, I flew over to France. And this is really the view that I got over the channel. It's only 22 miles across. So you're hardly above water for much more than 25 minutes. And actually what you're seeing now, this is the first view out of my sort of cockpit window, if you like, of France. And then I flew down the coast for about an hour. I landed at a place called Lithuania airport. So this is me now in Europe. And you'll see I've got sort of some orange trousers on underneath my jacket there. That's a special immersion suit. So if I'm unlucky enough that I end up crashing into the water, I can still float. So every time you fly above water, you wear the special immersion suit. After that, I headed down to a place called Alençon in France. And I remember when I arrived, it was crazy. Again, there was media everywhere asking me what I'm up to and why, and it was really magical. I then visited a school in Alençon. The guys made me feel really welcome, and it was just brilliant. And amazingly, they spoke great English. And the mission, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to try and fly around the world. No one has managed to successfully do that in a gyrocopter at the moment. But the main mission is to try and speak in a school in every country I visit, and through online talks like this talk now and visits in person and social media, etc., I want to try and inspire 1 million young people to pursue their own goals and dreams, whatever they may be. So this was the first school that I spoke in. It was great, and it was really good to get into a rhythm. After that, I headed over towards out through France into Germany. Now, a lot of the landscape was quite flat to begin with, lots of wooded area like this. So it looks great, but if you were to have a problem with the aircraft, you're very limited in options as to where you can land. But it is what it is. Sometimes you have to fly across big forests and things. Now here is a great picture. This is working my way into Germany down to a place called Friedrichshafen. So this is in the south of Germany, and you can see the terrain is starting to get a little bit more mountainous. And actually, I took this picture in the morning, and you can see below me there's some very sort of slight fog sort of still lingering, but it was perfectly clear above that and perfectly safe to fly. And the air was super still. There was no rising air. So when hot air rises, it's called unstable air, and the gyrocopter can move about quite a bit. Just like experiencing turbulence in a plane, really. It's just hot air rising and sinking. And this was a really great day. I flew down to Friedrichshafen, and it was a brilliant flight. When I arrived at Friedrichshafen, I actually had the aircraft on display for about a week. Actually, no, sorry, 5 days. Now, here's another picture. You can see it was just amazing. And if you look just above the ground, you'll see a sort of a slightly thicker layer of cloud. That's actually called an inversion. So there's air trapped. It can't actually escape. But I was flying above that. It was incredible. It's hot air that's rising, and then above that there's cold air. So the hot air cannot rise up above through the cold air. So it's called an inversion. And this was really lovely flying. I then arrived down in Germany, and these are some people from the factory. My gyrocopter there is on the left, and then they have other gyrocopters there. And effectively, it was a show. There was hundreds and hundreds of other aircraft there, and I just spoke to people. Really, it was a brilliant time. After that, I headed up to Leipzig in Germany. And the terrain, there was lots of rivers, and it was really beautiful, to be honest. And this is one of the pictures that I took on the way up to to Leipzig. But when I arrived at Leipzig, I was flying into a huge airport called Leipzig Hale. And one of my sponsors is a company called DHL. And I flew into DHL's largest global hub. And so the runway was, almost 3 miles long. It was huge. And we got to do some cool pics. This is actually just coming in, actually. And as you can see, my little gyro compared to, and this is that DHL aircraft behind is actually a fairly small aircraft compared to some of the bigger ones that they use. And you can see just how small I am in my little aircraft. That gives you a good sort of comparison of size there, really. After that, I actually spoke in a school in Germany. That was really, really good. After that, oh yeah, this is cool, guys. You can see the comparison in terms of size. Some of these engines are pretty big. And this was a fairly new aircraft, I think, if my memory is correct. And I just had to take this picture because I thought it was pretty cool to do something like that. After that, I headed up through into Poland and down to a place called Nowy Targ. And actually, it started to get quite mountainous. This is a great picture that someone took, and you can see the mountains behind me. These are actually the mountains of Slovakia behind me. And I'm kind of almost on the border here. I stopped here for a while. And then after that, I headed up to Warsaw. And then I had a little bit of bad luck, guys. I actually got a puncture in my front tire. You can see we're using the big tire there just to hold the front of the gyro up. And we've managed to. I had a little bit of support from a local mechanic who came out to help me. He couldn't speak a word of English, but we managed to I managed to translate what was going on, and he came out and started to help me. And we got the wheel off and got it sorted. But it was a little bit awkward because actually it was the Easter holidays. So I couldn't get a replacement tire. And it sounds really simple, just get a new tire. But in the end, I had to get on a plane and fly to Milan just to get a new tire and get it swapped out. And then I got back and carried on. So sometimes you have to do what you need to do to make things happen, even if it seems a little bit crazy at the time. After that, well, one of the things that was a blessing in disguise, actually, I spent more time than I intended in Warsaw. So I was able to visit a school. It's a little bit of a blurry picture, but it's a selfie that I took in a school. And actually, guys, this is the American School of Warsaw, just so you know. And these were great people that I spoke to. And after that, I headed up through Lithuania, Latvia, and into Estonia. Now, the terrain really has changed at this point. It's very, very flat. Most of the time, the ground is only 200 or 300 feet above sea level. And it's very, very foresty. You can see for miles and miles, you're just flying over forest. And I'm quite low here. I'm only really flying at above about 700-800 feet above the ground. So it's quite low, but it's no problem. After that, I headed into Russia. Now, this is some of the terrain and some of the things that I saw in Russia. There were lots of lakes and things. This is the first stop in Russia, guys. A place called Peskov. And it was really different. It was like stepping back in time. It was very official. And I remember they came out to meet me. No one could speak any English at all. There was someone on the radio in the tower that could just about speak a bit of English. And I pulled my phone out to do a selfie. And they went absolutely crazy, saying no photos. And it was quite intimidating. But it was all very official, and I was stamped in to Russia, just across the border from Estonia. I had a huge flight down to Moscow, 500 nautical miles. So after here, I stopped somewhere else to refuel. And as you can see, much more friendly now. These guys were awesome. They refueled me, and then I had a 6.5-hour flight down to Moscow. It was quite a long flight, and this was a lot of how the sort of terrain looked. It was again very, very flat, with miles and miles of sort of these dry, barren, open fields. Some of the land was worked, i.e. farmed, and some of it was just sort of wild land. Again, lots and lots of trees. And I was very, very lucky. I was able to fly around the city of Moscow. This is one of the lakes, as I wasn't far from Moscow here. And as I came in over the city in the evening, I didn't land until about 7 o'clock. And you can see, looking up, there's a helicopter by just by the sun there. And I had a helicopter escort back into the airport that I landed in. It was incredible. And it was really surreal, the fact that I'd just flown to Russia, to Moscow, and I landed, and you know, the sun was setting, and it was really quite amazing. But to be honest, I'm still only a very short period of time into a very, very long trip. So now I'm in Moscow, and in 2 days' time I leave. And the next stop is America, guys. I'm making my way over to Alaska, then be coming down through Canada into America, across to the East Coast, back up into Canada, and then across to Greenland, Iceland, Faroe Islands. Then I'll be making my way back down to the UK. So I still have a long way to go, and I'm just taking it day by day at the moment. So here I am. I'm in Moscow, and it just... yeah, I thought what I'll do now, guys, is hand back over and we can ask some questions. I wanted to just share some pictures, really, with you guys. And as things progress, how do I stop the screen share? Am I still screen sharing, Joe?
No, we got you back now, James.
Wicked. So, yeah, that's really where I'm at. And one of the things that I'm learning so far, and I always knew this because, you know, when I cycled around the world, people were so good to me. The challenges and the things that have been happening to me so far, people have really been helping me. People that can't even speak English have been wanting to help me. And, you know, if I've said this once, I've said it a million times. You know, human beings are incredible. They're kind, they're caring, and you know, it doesn't matter what country you come from, doesn't matter what skin color you have, doesn't matter what language you speak. I'm still blown away all the time by how kind people are to me. So shall we do some questions now?
Let's do it, James. Let's meet some of our classrooms. So, you know, so great to see the journey. This is something that we've talked about, you know, for years. I remember, you know, you were out here in North America and you were talking about this idea, and it's so cool to see it grow to actually happening. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I want to ask, a lot of your journeys in the past, a lot of your explorations, your adventures have been very physical, whether it's rowing across oceans, climbing mountains, cycling, and that kind of thing. How does this compare? Is this still pretty physically demanding to be up for hours at a time and concentrating and flying the gyro?
Yeah, it's strange actually, because it's almost just as tiring, if not more, because whilst you're not physically exercising, you're sitting there in the elements. It can be cold, it's windy, and you're constant. There's no autopilot. You have to fly, you have to concentrate. You're talking to air traffic controllers on the radio. So the levels of concentration are really quite high. And after every time I land, I'm just exhausted. But I think to myself, why am I so tired? I haven't actually physically done anything. And it's quite strange. It's more fatiguing than I thought it would be. But over time, the flying gets easier. So, yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, let's meet some of our classrooms. Let's start off. We're going to go to some sixth graders in DeWitt, Michigan with Mrs. Maxwell. Let's get their microphone turned on. Let's see how they're doing today. Hi. How are we doing, sixth graders?
Hey, guys.
All right, who's up with a question for James?
I do. James, what's it like being so far away from home? What emotions are you feeling?
That is an excellent question. And the world is a very big place, but the world is getting smaller because communication is so much better now that, yeah, I have been used to being a long way from home. But if I miss my parents or my friends, I just FaceTime them or call them. So, and one of the things that I remember is everything comes to an end. So maybe there'll be times when I miss people from home, my friends and my family, but they'll still be there when I get back. And the time will pass. The next 4 or 5 months will disappear, and before I know it, I'll be back. So I just kind of want to enjoy it, really. But it doesn't matter who you are. I think everyone will miss their family and friends and their home to a certain extent. But I'm very lucky because I'm meeting so many great people that they make me feel like I'm at home. So it's not too difficult. I'm not homesick yet.
All right, great question to kick us off.
Yeah.
Let's go to Bristol, Connecticut. We've got some third graders hanging out in Mrs. DeShaney's class. Let's get their microphone turned on. There we go.
Hi.
How are you doing, grade 3?
Great. Okay, Brianna has a question for you.
Can you come to America and visit our school?
Yeah, sure. Whereabouts are you?
From where we are in Connecticut.
In Connecticut.
Okay. Well, would you like me to come to your school?
Yes.
We'll try and figure out how we can do it, because I'm going to be spending maybe 2 months or more in America. So did you know, guys, that I have cycled across America twice? So I have seen quite a lot of America, and it's one of my favorite places. So I will be coming back. I should hopefully be in America around June. So next month, I'm hoping, if everything goes to plan. So June, July. But I know some of you have school holidays and things, but we'll figure something out, so how I can come and visit you guys.
Ooh, yay.
Yay. Oh my God.
All right, very cool question. Let's see, which should we go next? Mrs. Wagner's class, fourth graders hanging out with us in New Jersey. Let me see if I can get their microphone turned on. Oops, they just ducked out. I think they might be having some tech issues. So I'll keep an eye out for them to pop back in. And let's instead go to Mr. Sharp's group hanging out in Jackson, Michigan. Looks like some grade 5 students. Let's get that mic on. How are we doing, grade 5s?
How you doing, guys?
Good. Nice and loud, yeah. When you go to the U.S., what states are you stopping in?
Say again, sorry?
When you go to the U.S., what states are you stopping in?
Oh my goodness, loads. Okay, so I will tell you roughly my route, and then we can kind of like work it out. So I arrive in Alaska, and then I will follow the coast all the way down through Canada, down into Seattle, all the way down through California to San Diego, then from there into Arizona, and then probably from there up to all the way up to Chicago, and then from Chicago I'll be coming back down to Texas, then from Texas over to Florida, and then Florida all the way up the East Coast. I'll be coming through New York and New Jersey, your area, by the way, guys. And then I'll be going all the way up to Boston, and then from Boston over a little bit back over to Toronto, and then from there onwards up to Greenland. So I'm in America for quite a long time. So I suspect I'll be passing through all of your areas.
All right, very cool. Mrs. Wagner's class, I can see that you popped back in. So if you're ready, go ahead and ask a question. I saw you ducked out, but we've got you back. And actually, Mrs. Wagner's class, if you want to give me a big wave if you can hear me. Okay, perfect. Mrs. Wagner, can you turn the mic on for me? Since you came back in, I can't control your microphone.
My question is, how many miles an hour does a gyrocopter travel?
How many miles an hour does a gyrocopter travel? That's a great question. And the answer is about 100 miles an hour. However, there's two types of speed. There's air speed and there's speed over ground. So if I was traveling at 100 miles an hour and there was 0 wind, that would mean my ground speed would be 100 miles an hour over the ground. But if I was traveling into a 10-mile-an-hour wind, my air speed would be 100 miles an hour, but my ground speed would only be 90 miles an hour. So you have ground speed and air speed. So the two are two different things. And usually you want a nice tailwind, because that means you're going faster over the ground. I hope that makes sense.
All right. Let's jump to our next classroom. This time we are going to go a little further away. Let's go to Hawaii this time. We have some grade 4 or 5 students hanging out with us. Let's get their microphone on. How are we doing, Hawaii?
What exactly is a gyrocopter and how does it work?
Great question. What is a gyrocopter and how does it work? So a gyrocopter is a very small it's an aircraft, a mix between a fixed wing aircraft and a helicopter. So the main difference with a gyrocopter is the rotors are not powered. The rotors above my head spin via the air that's passing underneath them, which is caused from my forward motion from the engine at the back. So the engine behind me turns the propeller, that pushes me forward and then generates wind underneath the rotors, which causes the rotors to spin. And it's called auto-rotation. So that's what a gyrocopter is. And that's why it doesn't have a tail rotor like a helicopter, because the rotors are not powered. So that is what a gyrocopter is. Hope that makes sense.
All right, cool question. Mrs. Wong's grade 6 is in Scarborough, Ontario. So here in Canada, not too far from Toronto. Let's get that microphone turned on. Mrs. Wong's class, how are you doing? Oh, and Mrs. Wong, can I get you to turn the microphone on for me? The microphone controls are being a little bit funny right now.
There we go.
There they are.
Hello. Hello.
All right, who's up with the question?
No one. Wait, Dylan has.
Go ahead. Just ask me.
How much gas did you earn? No, ask them the same thing.
Like
How much
raise?
gas does it use?
All right, James, I heard 2 questions from that class. One was, how much gas does a gyro use? And the other was, how much do you earn doing a trip like this?
How much do I earn doing a trip like this? I wish I earned something. I don't earn anything by doing this. So my job when I'm back in the UK is to give talks at events and things. But as I'm flying around the world, this is something that I've saved up for a long time, and I've managed to secure sponsorship to make it happen. So I'm not earning money doing this. But I will earn money when I get back. And speaking about it, it's something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. And so that kind of answers that. And how much gas does it take? So it can carry 200 liters of fuel. So you'll have to work that out and figure out what that is in gallons. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But I can fly for about 8 to 9 hours, which is about 600, depending on the wind, between 600 and 700 miles. So I can fly quite a way.
All right, good questions. Mrs. Scott's class hanging out with us in Hamilton, Ontario. Let's get that microphone turned on. How are we doing, Hamilton? All right, your microphone's a little quiet, so get nice and close for me and be nice and loud.
What's the favorite place you went to?
Just say that again.
place you went to in your gyrocopter?
Oh, what's my favorite place that I visited in my gyrocopter? Well, to be honest, all the places have been great. I've met so many wonderful people, but I've always wanted to visit Russia. So the fact that I'm here in Moscow is really exciting. I'm meeting new people, and it's incredible. So maybe let's go with Moscow so far, but everywhere has been brilliant.
All right, great question. Let's take a little trip. Mrs. Ulrich has some high school students hanging out with her in British Columbia, Kelowna, BC. Let's get that microphone turned on, see how they're doing. How are we doing, Kelowna? All right, who's up?
You have a question?
Can you try that again, bud? Was that how cold is it in Moscow?
How cold is it in Moscow?
They're wondering about Moscow. What's it like? Is it cold? What's it like there?
Moscow is awesome. It's absolutely massive. It's a very, very big place. But the population is about 17 million, so it's a big place. Right today, it was warm. It was 23 degrees Celsius, so it's warm. It's not cold at the moment at all. It's really quite nice. A lot of people speak English as well. Most young people speak English. The elderly people will tend not to, but it's very Western to be honest. Yeah, it's a really kind, welcoming place so far. And it's been amazing. I've checked out the Kremlin. I've been on a riverboat tour. I've spoken in 2 schools. I was a bit worried that they wouldn't understand me, but it was perfect. So far, it's been amazing. Really, really good.
All right, James, building on those good experiences so far, whenever we've been together, we've always had some pretty good meals together. I'm wondering where's the best food been so far?
The best food so far? That's a great question. I would say, okay, I've had some really nice Polish food in Warsaw. That was very, very good. Germany again had some cracking steak there. To be honest, it's all really good. I haven't had anything yet that's been horrible. I'll tell you something that I did try in Moscow only 2 days ago. I tried some tongue. It was tongue from an ox or something. I can't remember, but it didn't taste that great. But I wanted to try it. At least I'm trying new things, right? You can't fly around the world and eat McDonald's and crap food. So you want to try and experience some of the local food as well.
Absolutely, very cool. Well, James, we have roughly 10 minutes left in the hangout, so I think we should try and do a speed round. See if we can hit each group one more time with a speed round.
Good idea. Let's do it.
All right, so let's go. I'll just start going down the list. Let's start Mr. Sharp's group. Do you guys have another question for James?
Step out to the key computer.
Now.
Yep.
How long will it take you to finish your trip?
It will take me a total time of about 5 months. I've been on the road or in the air for just over a month. So I have about 4 months left. There you go.
All right, good start to the speed round. Let's go to Mrs. DeShaney's group in Connecticut. Your microphone is on.
Speak louder.
What inspired you to do this?
What inspired me to do this? That's a great question. Well, I met someone years and years ago who tried to fly around the world and he was unsuccessful. And I met up with him. And ever since I was being a young boy, I've always wanted to learn how to fly. But I never thought I'd be able to. But as I got older, I realized, well, maybe I can, and why can't I at least try? It's always better to have a go at something than it is to not do it because you're scared of knowing whether you can do it or not. And so a combination of things. I've always wanted to learn how to fly. I've always liked to do things that are slightly different. Gyrocopters are quite different. And when I found out that no one's flown one around the world, I thought I need to try. I don't even know if I can do it. I believe I can, but I'm out here trying, and I just take it one day at a time. So a combination of me wanting to learn how to fly and being encouraged by some other good people to try it is really what's kind of inspired me. And also one of the things that inspires me and keeps me going is doing things like this, speaking to people around the world that I meet. And if you had said to me when I was very young, you'll be the only guy on the planet that's rode across the Atlantic, climbed Everest, cycled the world, you'll have written a book, and now you'll be flying around the world, I'd say, no way, I don't think I can do that. But here I am, and I've managed to do it. And one of the things that I've learned is everyone is good at something, and I've got this knack for somehow surviving and telling stories, and I just want to keep doing that, really. And you guys are no different to me. I'm no different to you guys. So if you're seeing me doing this, just imagine what all of you guys could be doing. And so you all have the capability to do it. Everyone does.
All right. Very cool. Great message, James. Mrs. Scott's group, your microphone is on.
How did you know how to work the gyrocopter?
How did I learn how to work the gyrocopter, was that? Okay, great question. So I had to have lessons. Just like driving a car, you need to have lessons. So I found someone, a really good instructor, who taught me, and it took me just under half a year to learn how to fly and get my license. So there was quite a bit involved, but I did it little bit by bit, and it got easier and easier. And now I'm a fully licensed gyrocopter pilot who's flying around the world. So same process as learning how to drive, just a little bit more in depth because there's just a little bit more to learn. But it's all easy peasy. And if I can do it, all of you guys can. Easy.
And I can think of one of the big perks is you probably don't find yourself in too many traffic jams up there. Clear sky.
You're not going to get a traffic jam, no.
All right. Mrs. Matsuda, back to Hawaii. Do you guys have another question?
If he's going to come to Hawaii and if he's going to visit any countries in the state.
Are you going to come to Hawaii, and are you going to visit any countries in the southern hemisphere?
Great question. I can't make it to Hawaii because I don't have the range to fly to you. I will run out of fuel and crash in the sea. You don't want that, right? But I will come to Hawaii when I finish this trip. I have never, ever been to Hawaii, and I would really, really like to. Would you guys like me to come to Hawaii and visit you? Tell you some stories of fun and adventure, yeah? Some real cool stories. All right. Let's see if we can line it up at some point. And am I visiting any countries in the Southern Hemisphere? No, I'm not actually. I'll be staying in the Northern Hemisphere. I only need to do 38,000 kilometers. So it's just over 21,000 nautical miles. And then I will have flown enough distance to fly around the world.
All right.
So I hope that answers that question.
Great question. It sounds like you've got a great speaking gig coming up down in Hawaii.
I can't wait to go to Hawaii.
All right. Mrs. Wong's class, do you want to turn your microphone on for a quick question?
Hello. Hello.
Excuse me. Avanish, go ahead.
When did you start this journey?
When did I start this journey? I started this journey 5 weeks ago. Yeah. But really, the journey started many, many years ago when I dreamt about flying, and here I am doing it.
All right. Mrs. Wagner's class, if you want to turn your mic on for me.
Do you land to eat?
Do I land to eat? So when I fly, I can eat certain things. I have a little bit of water that I drink. I have some sweets that I snack on just to keep me going. But to eat properly, yeah, I will land. Yeah.
All right, and I think we'll stop in Kelowna, BC, and then I think we've rocked our speed round. So let's get that microphone on with our high schoolers. Do you guys have another question?
I have. How do you pick your charities, and do you have a personal connection to them?
How do I pick my charities, and do I have a personal connection? That's a really great question. So everything I do is for young people. I found out what it was like to be disabled many years ago, but I managed to make a recovery. I had a very bad motorcycle accident 10 years ago. Took me about half a year to make a recovery and walk again. And so I do things for young people, quite often either disabled or very, very poorly sick children. And yeah, I over time, I've learned to go with my gut feeling. And if my gut feeling feels something is right, I tend to follow that, really. And so, yeah, there's 2 great charities that I'm now raising money for this project. So, and all the details are on my website if you want to look.
All right, very cool. Well, James, we did it. We rocked our speed round. Everybody got their second question in. Yeah, very exciting. 2 more days in Moscow and then a long way to go to get across Russia. I think.
Yeah, next stop, I'll be not far from you guys.
All right, very cool. Well, a lot of boreal forest to fly over now, so I look forward to seeing some of those pictures coming through. Boys and girls, I want to give a huge shout out to you guys. Thanks for joining us today, especially on a short notice hangout. We just locked this in before the weekend, so thanks for the great questions. And James, keep on going. Thanks so much for doing what you're doing, hanging out with the students. And yeah, we look forward to a lot more posts to come. I'll send a link to your pages as well, to the classrooms again, so they can keep up with your video logs.
Yeah, cool.
Sounds to me like you've got a few more fans following the journey and a few more stops to make in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. I have, like you say, I have a YouTube channel, so all my trips are up on YouTube and Instagram and things, so people can follow along as almost as if they're with me.
All right, awesome. Well, boys and girls, if you're in one of the classrooms where you had to turn the mic on for me, can you please do that now? I'll turn the rest of the microphones on. Let's get nice and loud, a big loud goodbye and thank you to James to power him up for his continuing journey. So here we go. Go ahead, boys and girls, nice and loud. Goodbye and thank you. All right. Everybody for hanging out today. Have a good day. James, congrats.